Have you ever walked by a door that was only ajar and felt your whole life tilt? That small opening was the hinge of mine. I wasn't looking for anything, just the quiet of the house while Mark was at work. But a sliver of canvas and a photograph pinned to the wall pulled me up the stairs like gravity. There, in Ethan's studio, was a portrait of me. Not a snapshot, not a flattering filter. An interpretation that landed harder than any compliment I'd been paid in my life. I stood rooted, and for the first time in a long time I felt seen in a way that both thrilled and frightened me. People had noticed my looks before, and when I was younger I'd dreamed about modeling, but those fantasies faded the night Mark and I fell in love. The life we built was enough. Now, at 42, I steered clear of attention. So when Ethan, Mark's new tenant and an obsessive young portrait artist who'd returned to town after art school, hung my face on his wall, something inside me unpeeled. He'd taken a photo I'd once posted years ago and turned it into something fierce and vulnerable all at once. His brushstrokes had given my jawline a new resolve, and my eyes a story I hadn't been willing to tell. I should have felt violated, but the truth was stranger. The image made me feel whole in a way I hadn't realized I'd stopped feeling. I backed out of his doorway with my hands still tingling from the frame's edge and told myself it was just talent, nothing more. Days folded into a pattern after that. Ethan retreated into his studio for hours. Girls drifted in for shoots. Friends came by with coffee and props. But something about the way he looked at me when our eyes met, brief, intense, measuring, made the air between us hard to ignore. One afternoon, after a fight upstairs sent a young woman charging past me with tears on her cheeks, curiosity won. I climbed the stairs and knocked at Ethan's door with more purpose than I intended. "Come in," he said, voice low. The room felt charged with unfinished color. He stood before an empty canvas, restless. When I asked what was wrong, his confession spilled out. A major commission, a chance that could change everything for him, and the realization that his current portrait, beautiful as it was, didn't capture the truth the buyer wanted. He needed something else, a spark. He hesitated, then said my name as if testing whether I would flinch. "Claire," he said quietly, "I need you. Not because you're famous, because you carry something in you that I can't recreate from photos. I know this sounds forward, but I won't ask if you don't want to say yes." I should have said no. A dozen sensible alarms went off in my head. But when he talked about seeing me, about trying to catch a softness and a strength at once, the part of me that had once wanted to model leaned forward. I found myself nodding before I'd fully decided why. That night, after Mark kissed me goodnight and left the living room lights untouched, like an actor pretending nothing was changed, I climbed the stairs with my dress folded over my arm and a pulse in my throat. Ethan had transformed his studio for the evening. Scented candles, soft music, a single chair set like a throne in the pool of lamplight. He held a glass of wine out to me like an offering, his hands steady. He showed me the outfit he'd chosen, a black silk dress that hugged the line of my shoulders and promised nothing obvious. Then went to work, more worshipful than professional. We began simply. He asked about small things, my childhood habit of staring out trains, the scar on my knuckle from a summer bike crash. Each answer a brushstroke he used to deepen the portrait. Conversation carried us into pauses that were longer than they needed to be, full of the kind of silence that begins to feel like a shared secret. Halfway through the evening he would glance up from the canvas and meet my eyes with a look that undid me. Equal parts artist and something like confession. As the pain appeared, so did the distance between us shift. Ethan would reach to adjust a dropped strap or tuck a loose curl behind my ear under the pretense of lighting, and his touch would land warmer than a model and less purely clinical than a photographer's hand. Each small contact collected into a tide I hadn't meant to ride. I told myself it was the wine, the ambience, the heady compliment of being translated into art. But when he put down his brush and came closer, we both knew we'd crossed a line that felt both terrifying and inevitable. He told me, softly, that he'd been holding back his feelings for months, months of watching, of sketching faces that he thought could explain what he felt. He said it like an apology and a prayer. My throat tightened. Part of me imagined the consequences, Mark's reaction, the house's quiet rearranged forever, while another part leaned forward, tasting a possibility I hadn't given myself in years, to be desired for more than my history or my role in someone else's life. We didn't leap. Instead, we hovered in the space between confession and action. He lifted my hand to steady it for a stroke on the canvas. The contact was electric but careful. We stood with a portrait of me drying between us, both of us changed by it. The night ended with us holding a silence that said more than any words could. Whatever this was, it would alter everything. I walked back downstairs with the portrait rolled under my arm and the house smelling faintly of turpentine and candle wax. I placed the painting in my closet where the light wouldn't fade it. Not to hide it, precisely, but because I needed time to understand what it meant. Mark slept unaware. Ethan was upstairs, awake, maybe replaying his own private film. If you want to know what happened after that night, how choices unravel, and how people decide who they want to be, hit subscribe and tap the bell. There are lines we cross that ask to be paid for, and the rest of this story asks a price I wasn't ready to name. Share your thoughts below. I want to know what you'd do in my place.